this has been termed by the leadership from both sides as mother of all deals. Now, who is going to provide the dispute resolution? That's why there is a stalemate that is going on in World Trade Organization. So India is generally considered as the pharmacy of the world. India is providing a lot of medicines, a lot of equipment, the surgical equipments also to different countries. The rationalized reduction of the taxes are going to be there. European Union's companies which are under the stringent control of the carbon emission, those should also be in the competitive stage. Hello everyone, I am Vishal Salsekar. And today we are going to talk about a very important topic, not only from the perspective of international relations, but from the perspective of the economy of India as well as the international economy. So this particular topic is regarding the recently signed trade deal between the India and the European Union. Now, this has been termed by the leadership from both sides as mother of all deals. Since the magnitude, since the volume, since a lot of other things which were part of this particular deal, that makes this deal a comparatively more special deal. And that's how the representative, when they came to India, the type of gestures that were being shown, that also highlights the increasing warmth between India and EU, and also the prolonged negotiations for which India had dealt with European Union and the European Union had dealt with India. All these things shows the strategic signals also along with the economic realities. So we are going to talk about the India and the European Union free trade agreement, which is highlighting the trade strategy and also the global power shift. Now, when we talk about, let's say right now, what exactly is the trade related global order, before that just try to understand, because when I had discussed regarding the India and the United Kingdom's free trade agreement, that point of time we had discussed comprehensively regarding the stages of different type of trade agreements. Like there is preferential trade agreement, there is free trade agreement, then there is CICA and CIPA, which is the comprehensive economic partnership agreement and comprehensive economic cooperation agreement. Then there are other type of things like, let's say, the common economic area is there, custom union is there, and the economic union are also there. Now this shows the increased level of participation, increased level of integration of the economy. Now simply, if we talk about the free trade agreement, let's try to understand that in a very simple term. Suppose there are two countries, country A and country B, they are going for the trade related deal. Now, initially the reservation of the country towards the product of other country is going to be very high. But there are going to be certain products in country A which are not that much sensitive to country B. That means maybe ho sakta hai if the country B is having good amount of agriculture, and if the agricultural product are going from country A to country B, B might not be having that much impact because it is already having a competitive edge. That's why if there are going to be certain products ka transfer, that particular products transfer is not going to impact much. And simultaneously, it is having the bi-directional aspect. So B say B, certain products are going to A. Now, once this particular deal is utilizing the export and import of majority of the goods and services, and there are only a few set of products which are kept in the negative list, means on the sensitive set of product, we are not going to reduce the duty or slash the duty. Those particular type of agreements are generally termed as the free trade agreement, where the trade is without barrier for majority of the products except certain sensitive products which are kept in the negative list. So sensitive set of goods which are kept in the negative list. Now, talking about this thing, that once we have talked about that what exactly is the free trade agreement, now what exactly is the present time order regarding the trade. So there is a body that was created which was WTO, World Trade Organization, as a matter of principle that emerged after 1946, jahan par there was already a negotiation going on, already two bodies were created, one was IMF and other was the World Bank. So there was also the conception regarding what should be done for the trade. So there were certain principles at that point of time that were adopted, which were the general agreement on trade and tariff. If there are going to be the trade between two countries, for certain things there may be free trade that can be promoted, or if the tariffs are there, that has to be rationalized. Over a period of time, and specifically in the 1980s and 90s, there were negotiations going on, and ultimately this resulted in formation of an organization which is known as the World Trade Organization. So since 1994, this particular organization was supposed to act as a facilitator for the global trade. Now, this organization to some extent met with this particular principle that this was able to facilitate the trade. But over a period of time, and specifically if we talk about since 2019, this organization is appearing to be dysfunctional. Why? Because the principle on which this World Trade Organization was functioning, this principle is the principle of consensus. Means, suppose out of all the members, if one member is not agreeing with something, the resolution cannot be passed. So since this is based upon the principle of consensus, there was the appellate tribunal in the World Trade Organization. And once this particular appellate tribunal the members were lacking, there were no member to ensure the giving the resolution to that particular conflict which is being brought by the countries to the World Trade Organization. Since 2019, there has not been any new appointment. Once there are not new appointment, because US is blocking the all appointment related proposals of the World Trade Organization, considering that this particular organization is having anti-US bias, and that's why since 2019 this particular जो trade dispute resolution body है, that particular dispute resolution body is dysfunctional. Once the dispute resolution body is dysfunctional, if two countries are not following the principle of the free trade or the principle of rationalized trade, now who is going to provide the dispute resolution? That's why there is a stalemate that is going on in World Trade Organization. Talking about that, what the countries are doing now, the country have to focus more upon the bilateral and the multilateral trade deal. So that's why you are able to observe that India has also recently signed certain deal. India had signed the deal with the United Kingdom. India had signed the deal with New Zealand. India had signed the deal with the or terms of reference with the Gulf Cooperation Council. There is about to sign a deal with the United States, and already there has been conclusion of the deal with the European Union. So that's why what India is also doing, India is not much relying on the organizations like WTO. India is also doing the trade. Because see, if we talk about the present global order is also fractured. United States had not allowed the appointment to this particular body. At the same point of time, US is also putting a pressure on the countries through the tariff related policy, and once the tariff related policy is being applied, in that situation the chances are very, very high that the tariff may increase further, right? So whatever US is utilizing tariff, that is to serve the geostrategic policy. So that's why the bilateral and regional FTAs provide the breathing space to the countries like India, that even if US imposes high taxes, India can put the export to other countries, diversifying its market. Now, this particular trade which India is diversifying, this trade is ensuring the diversification of the supply chain. Means now not only dependent on one country, we will be having the raw material, processing capabilities, and also other type of support, even including market to other countries. Not only dependent on one country. And with which country we are going to have the economic partnership, eventually there is going to be the rise of interdependence. And once there is going to be the interdependence, this interdependence is going to ensure the strategic alignment, because once the economic relation between two countries gets increased, that particular economic relation are also going to unfurl in different other domain, which also include the strategic dimension. So strategic alignment is also one such outproduct of this. So right now the world is moving from the World Trade Organization to a mega-FTA based organization, jahan par the free trade agreements are now being talked about more frequently, and you are also observing that India is also frequently signing the free trade agreement, keeping obviously the mutual sensitivities, but at the same point of time talking about the interest of India. And similarly with the ASEAN also, we are going to revamp that particular ASEAN goods in trade in goods agreement, right? So these are the things that India is doing. So from the World Trade Organization to the mega-FTAs, now this is a global step that different countries are taking, and India is also not leaving behind in this particular concept. Now, talking about now, since the historic deal has been signed, so what make this particular deal more historic? So first thing regarding this, that this is not a new agreement. India had already initiated the discussion regarding the signing of the free trade agreement, and the prolonged negotiations continued roughly till 2000 or from 2007. And roughly till 2013, these negotiations were going on. But then after that, there were certain strategic issues that emerged between India and European Union. Along with that, there were other strategic consideration with regarding their own economy and regarding the settlement on certain things, wine and spirit sector, the automobile sector. And that's why what had happened after this, that this particular negotiation resulted in a stalemate. From 2013, again, for a prolonged period of time, there were no much negotiations, and the negotiation got continued only after 2022, where the both regions got sensitive regarding the fractured global order. And then they have talked about that, yes, we have to find out the terms of reference and we have to reach to a mutually agreed step, jahan par there is going to be a free trade agreement. And finally, in 2026, this particular deal has been signed. So the negotiation started from 2007, ultimately resulted in conclusion in 2026. Roughly 19 years is a substantial amount of time. A lot of things have changed, but then the renegotiation resulted in mutually benefit or mutually beneficial resolution. Talking about another thing, that the kind of magnitude this particular free trade agreement brings with itself, it is bringing roughly the $24 or 24 trillion we can say. And once 24 trillion is at the stake, obviously it makes it roughly 20% ke aspas of the global economy. And once it is 20% plus of the global economy, that shows that it is having one of the highest magnitude. That's why for both the region, this particular agreement is very, very important. Talking about another thing, which is the wider coverage. So it is not only including, let's say, agricultural product or maybe technology. It is including all the set of product. It is including environmental. It is including the defense related cooperation. It is also including the other type of ICT, AI, and many other domains that are being covered. And also the mutual sensitive ones are also brought under this. So that's why the rationalized reduction of the taxes are going to be there. So gradually, India is going to reduce the tariff on majority of the European Union product, and European Union is going to provide a lot of access to the Indian product in the European Union's market, roughly ensuring 97% plus of the Indian product reaching to the European Union market. And that's why it is very, very significant, not only for India, but for the European Union also. And combinedly, US dollar, roughly 24 trillion, this is the size of the market that it is going to provide. Now, let's talk about the provision. What are the exactly provision? And let's try to understand them one by one. So the first important provision that has been incorporated, that immediately or over a period of time, there has been reduction of the duties on certain sector. These particular sector are those sectors which are more labor sensitive. So first is textile and apparel, where India is having advantage, and now these particular products will be able to reach to the European Union's market, and where the European Union is going to keep the zero tariff on this particular product. So free trade access of this, and these are the labor intensive. That means those people who are working in India, who are the part of the supply group of this type of product, they are also going to get benefited, because jab scale बढ़ रहा है, once the scale is increasing, and that particular scale will also result into the production. Once more production will be there, they will be getting more remuneration, right? Talking about the leather and footwear, another sector where India is having the competitive advantage. At the same point of time, this is also a labor intensive. This is going to get the advantage. Marine products are there, gems and jewelry, and the engineering goods. These are the products which are going to get the priority access. All these sectors are the employment or the labor intensive sectors, and through the priority access, the people in India or the people who are involved in these particular sector are also going to get benefit out of this. The next is regarding the agricultural and the processed food. Now see, agriculture is one such sensitive issue where a large amount of population is dependent, and that's why what has been kept, certain agricultural products were not incorporated in that, where the European Union is going to send the product to India. That means the rationalization of tariff has been done, but not the slashing of the complete tariff. At the same point of time, Indian products, agricultural products, processed goods, processed food products are going to get the prioritized access. Now, India is one such economy which is producing a lot. Producing a lot in terms of the agricultural output. Once these agricultural outputs are also going to be transferred, the surplus ones, that are going to increase the avenues of income at the farmers end, and now the farmers, jo hamara objective tha doubling of the farmer income, that will be eventually materialized through this. So this is going to impact and increase the rural income. Next, talking about the service and the digital trade. So service related support, so the technology related service, IT sector, ITIS. So more than 140 plus type of the services which are being provided by India to the European Union are going to have the tariff-free access. Similarly, India has also provided the tariff-free access to more than 100 type of services from the European Union to India. That means obviously it is a mutual quid pro quo, but then India is getting more prioritized access. And in the service sector, there is generally the involvement of the people's mobility. There is going to be the movement of the corporations, establishment of the corporations, and that will bring more and more employment opportunities, and that will ensure the professional mobility. So you will need to have certain provisions for the professional mobility. Now, how you are going to ensure? First thing which is acting as a hindrance is the visa. So if the visa processing is fast, if the visa fees is reduced, and along with that there are no much barrier in order to ensure the entry of the Indian citizen in the European Union and European Union citizen in India, that will ensure comparatively better trade. So that's why the entry and the stay provision has been enhanced. Multiple entry, multiple exit type of visas are being talked about. There are also the discussion regarding what social security contributions that have to be paid by the citizen of one country in the another country in order to get the access of the health benefits. So those are also being talked about, that can be rationalization of the same. The same way with the United Kingdom we had done, the similar things are being talked about in the case of the European Union also. So professional mobility, long-term visa, reduction of the visa fee, immediate renewal of visa, all these things are being talked about. Talking about agreed to conclude social security agreement. So what is social security agreement? Suppose karo, I am as an individual of India want to go to the European Union, any of the country. Now, if I go to perform, let's say, the educational task over there, what I might be required to do, I might be paying the money, or my employer is going to pay the money on my behalf to the European Union ka that particular country in order to ensure that I am contributing to their social security scheme. Now, what does this make? Basically, I become then a costly asset for them. Means maintaining me in that particular region is going to be costly, because on and above my salary, they also have to pay the social security contribution in order to have my access to their healthcare system. But what about if I am paying the healthcare related things in India, and if that particular thing will be valid in the European Union also, then it is going to be benefit, because it will prevent the double contribution, because I am already paying in India, and in the European Union that particular premium will function. So that's why they are signing the social security agreement or the double contribution related conventions, jahan pe if I am paying in India, I need not to pay again in the European Union ka that particular country in accessing their social security scheme. So these are the type of the double contribution conventions that are to be prevented. So to prevent the double social security related contribution, if that not to be paid, then my employer will not feel burdened because of this type of social security contribution, and that's why I'll be appearing as a cheaper labor for them, and that's why more and more Indians are going to go there and perform their services, because now the Indian labor is comparatively more competitive. So I hope you might have got the clarity regarding what is exactly the social security agreements. Next is the automobile sector, another one such sector, because premium car segment mein European Union ka country, specifically Germany, is a very predominant one, and that's why what India was trying to ensure, India was trying to prevent the entry of the European Union ka cars in the lower segment, like roughly a specific value ke below ka cars should not be that much cheaply available in India. That's why what they have done, they said ki we are going to reduce gradually the taxes and the tariffs on them, and specifically for the lower car segment, like roughly 25 lakh se niche wale cars, for that segment it will not be that much functional. For the luxury high end cars, there will be more reduction of the tariff, because for that obviously those particular cars are going to be sold in India at a cheaper rate, because the tariff increases the price of those cars also, right? So in the lower segment we are not disrupting much, in the high end segment there are certain disruptions. Lastly, talking about the pharmaceuticals and the medical device. So India is generally considered as the pharmacy of the world. India is providing a lot of medicines, a lot of equipment, the surgical equipments also, to different countries. And if the products are going to be taxed, or there is a tariff that is being put on the Indian product, that makes the India's medicines costly. So if there is a bilateral deal, and in this particular deal they have talked about that India ka jo pharmaceutical and the medical devices, including generic ones, there has been access to roughly $570+ billion ka market which is available, and through that India can have the access to the other markets of the Europe, and also to many other countries from where the supply chain linkages goes of the Europe. So in that sense, in all these segments, whatever benefit India is already having, those benefits are going to be further enhanced by signing the deal. So talking about this, another thing which we have not discussed as of now is regarding the carbon border adjustment mechanism, CBAM. Now see, this is not like CBAM was initiated as a part of this particular deal. This is a policy of the European Union that, as the name suggests, carbon border adjustment mechanism. That suppose karo, if this is the European Union and this is any other country, if the product is entering from any of the country to the European Union, they will be assessing that what is the carbon content in that. Means in order to produce that particular good, how much amount of carbon has been emitted. In order to ensure the further distribution, kitna carbon lagega, uske transportation mein, what all things are there, they are going to assess. And they are going to identify, are the companies of, let's say, country A or country B getting undue advantage, because in this country, there may not be that much strict regulation regarding carbon. But in the European Union, they have strict regulation regarding carbon. So if the people are producing more in this region, even not carbon less of the carbon emission, but the carbon intensive products, and if those are reaching to the European Union market, they are applying a certain X amount of tariff, roughly 25%. That means those products, if they are produced cheaply, now they are getting 25% extra in the European Union, so that European Union's companies which are under the stringent control of the carbon emission, those should also be in the competitive stage. Now, what type of concession India have got out of this? India got the most favored nation related assurance. That means right now India is having deal with the European Union. Suppose tomorrow European Union signs a deal with, let's say, Australia. Hypothetical example. Tomorrow European Union says ki bhai dekho, right now we are applying a 25% tariff on India. But suppose tomorrow we sign a deal, or Australia or EU signs a deal with Australia, and they say we are applying only 10% of CBAM for Australia. Now the similar benefit has to be given to India also, because India had signed the MFN for the CBAM mechanism. So if for any other country they are going to reduce, they means European Union. If European Union is going to reduce the CBAM ka tax, that particular reduced tax will be applied to India also automatically. So the technical cooperation, carbon pricing recognition, verification, financial assistance, all these things are being done. And these things ke through, we have ensured that we are at parity with their strategic partners. We are at parity with all the countries which are their allies, because to the allies, to the major strategic partner, they are going to give more concession. So if the concessions are being provided in the CBAM, those concessions will be automatically transferred to India. Now, talking about lastly that what this particular India and the European Union free trade agreement is signifying with respect to the strategic aspect and the global power shift. So since it is the economic agreement, eventually it is going to ensure the geoeconomics. But what about the geopolitics and the geostrategy? So when we talk about the geopolitics, since European Union is to some extent also inviting China in order to spend in the European Union region, in order to have the trade linkages. And right now the US and China are to some extent having rivalry, right? So in all these situations, India and the European Union, through the trade cooperation, are showing the positive light to the world that the cooperation is possible. Through that, they can cooperate for the better economy, and with the better economy, there will be other opportunities that are going to be developed. So right now, there is already a US-China rivalry. With China, the European Union tried to ensure certain engagement, but China ki policies are to some extent coercive policies. And in the case of India, the European Union is getting advantage of sending certain products. But in case of China, there will be more dumping from the side of China to EU. So EU is cautious with respect to China. So that's why this US-China rivalry provided an opportunity for the India and European Union related collaboration, and that has been done through the trade deal. Apart from the China plus one strategy, so major countries are dependent right now on China on certain products. Maybe the solar photovoltaics, maybe for the rare earth element. Now even the European Union, for certain products, certain supply chain linkage, they are dependent on the China. But they are also trying to ensure that there should be other countries also with which we can have the dependence, or we can have the cooperation. Through that, the dependence on China can be reduced, and that particular policy is China plus one. Means that plus one here is in this particular case is India. So they are finding the alternative countries, and India fits in all the parameters in this particular definition. Lastly, talking about the fragmentation of the global trade. So already the US की policies we can't rely more upon till the point of time there is no signing of the free trade agreement. Apart from that, already a lot of conflicts are going on. Russia, Ukraine is there. There was Israel and Iran conflict, and then entire West Asia mein there are conflicts going on. Apart from that, Venezuela mein US has put the invasion, right? So in all these situations, the chances are very high that the fragmentation of the global trade is going to be harmful for all the country. And in this situation, what India is trying to do, what benefits that India could have got in other countries, which are eventually being lost because of the tariff and other policies, now India is trying to utilize those benefits through the trade deal with the countries like the countries of European Union, countries like UK, countries like New Zealand. And eventually the discussions are also going on with respect to the GCC countries. So this increases the avenue for India, this diversifies the avenue for India, and this is eventually going to ensure that the economic policy is also having impact on the strategy, also having impact on the politics. So through this, we will be able to see that this particular thing is going to ensure a major power shift where the European Union is also trying to diversify itself from the whether US or China alone to the other countries like India, which is also a strategic partner of the European Union. Okay. So with this, we have concluded this particular discussion, and eventually as a part of that, we have also understood that the mutual sensitivities were taken care of. The agriculture sector mein the way the agricultural concession had to be provided, but at the same point of time, keeping in mind that the Indian agriculture or Indian farmers are at the vulnerable position. So keeping in mind the interest of that, and that's how to protect the agricultural sector from the undue advantage to any other country. So with this, we have completed this discussion comprehensively. From the perspective of GS paper 2, it is important, GS paper 2, IR section, India and the European Union. But even from the perspective of GS paper 3, the FTA and the other type of agreements or the economic collaboration or the sectoral diversification, this is a very important topic. So we will meet again in another set of discussion. I hope these things which we have discussed is clear to you. Thank you very much. Have a great day.